everyone. This is Kim O'Neill from the Every Day is a New Day podcast and live show, and you're listening to the Going North podcast with the hilarious Dom Brightman. Be sure to subscribe to his show so you don't miss any episodes, and remember, every day is always a new day.
Today's episode is sponsored by yours truly, Dominic Dom Brightman's wonderful book, Stay the Course, The Elite Performer's 7 Secret Keys to Sustainable Success. Grab it on ebook, audiobook, or paperback book and share this gift to your friends, family, heck, even no matter what season it is, for that wonderful person in your life that needs to advance to their next level in their career or just needs a quick pick-me-up to get through their day and beyond to thrival level. Now let's get on with the show. And today on the High Live Reel Builder for Authors, known as GMP, the Great, the Glorious, the Wonderful, Going North podcast, where we bring you some fabulous authors from around the globe. We got one heck of a super special awesome guest for you today because my goodness, we got a mom in the building, a mama in the building, because she is a mindfulness mama mentor, Triple M, y'all, that coaches smart, accomplished, overstressed individuals on how to cultivate mindfulness in their daily lives. And it gets even better and not butter, folks, because she's got over 20 years of experience in yoga and mindfulness practices and is a certified teacher of parent effectiveness training. So who knows? Pets. Gotta love it. And she thrives on serving others through mindfulness and yoga and practicing creative expression as an artist and nurturing joy with her husband and 2 daughters. So let's give it up for Miss HCF herself, Miss Hunter Clarke-Fields. How you doing today, Hunter?
Hi, good, Don. Thank you.
Yeah, that's right. She's doing good with all the O's. So we're going to stick with the 2 O's, the 3 O's, 4 O's.
The O's?
Yeah, you said good. I'm like, all right, trying to measure how good we're talking here. How many O's we're talking in the middle?
Well, I don't know. It's winter. It's so dark. I'm having some internet issues. We're like in the medium part of the scale there.
Okay, medium, so it's just 1 extra O. Okay, gotcha. Well, we'll work our way up to a Cheerios box eventually. That's right, with all the extra O's indeed. So my goodness. So I know all introductions aren't allowed to be 87 days long, so mind filling in any cavities I may have missed about you?
Sure, yeah. So I am the creator of a mindful parenting course, and I'm the author of a book called Raising Good Humans, a mindful guide to breaking the cycle of reactive parenting and raising kind, confident kids. So that's the work I've been doing for the last number of years, and doing a teacher training as well for mindful parenting. So I'm teaching people around the world actually to take the mindful parenting course and teach it in their local communities. So it's exciting. We're changing patterns around the world. We're kind of changing those unhelpful patterns into more healthy patterns. It's so exciting.
So changing patterns. So instead of 101 Dalmatians, it's 300 zebras, huh?
Something like that, yeah. Maybe a rainbow zebra stuck in there too.
And then the zebra can show up as a unicorn. It's like, hey, buddy, you're not the only one with rainbows and sunshine. Oh, God. But yes, indeed. So mindfulness. So my goodness, I bet your business expanded in 2020 when everything went to freaking hell and then back. And then I guess we're back in somewhat hell, depending on people's mindset about everything.
Yeah, the book Raising Good Humans did really, really well. I think much better than the publisher expected. During the pandemic, it's really spoken to a lot of people. It's been translated into 6 different languages now. I've got all these copies in Bulgarian here in my studio. So it's resonating with people because we're struggling. It's hard. It's really hard for parents right now. I really feel for anyone who's got like small kids in their house right now. And there's a lot of stress, a lot of pressure out there. And, we have to understand how to take care of need to understand our biology, right? Like our stress response and how to take care of that so then we can show up in the way we want to show up. We tend to think like it's just a choice, right? Like I just going to choose to be this way. But the truth is we have all these patterns and causes and conditions in us that lead us to kind of react on autopilot. And the thing about mindfulness is that it gives us a choice, which is really essential. It gives us that ability to choose how we would like to respond. So yeah, it's really spoken to people during this really hard time.
Well, congratulations indeed. My goodness, you got your book in Bulgaria. My goodness, how- that's freaking awesome. That is freaking awesome. So I guess news really does travel. Is that how it happened? I guess it just caught fire on its own, or did it just actively pursue, like, what, Bulgaria? Pick up my book. It's a great title.
No, I didn't really actively pursue Bulgaria. It's really interesting how translations happen because you would have thought it would go into sort of major languages like French or Spanish, or first, and it hasn't been translated into Spanish, but it has been translated into Bulgarian, Brazilian Portuguese, and I can't remember the other languages now, but they're not like huge languages. It's kind of interesting, and yeah, I'm not sure exactly how that process works.
Well, it's all good. It's all good indeed. It's all good indeed. Well, congratulations. That's right. Join the biz of immortality, helping folks create future awesome humans. So, my goodness, raising good humans. So, what inspired the title? Because I love the title.
Well, I think that's what we all want for our kids, right? We want them to be good humans. We want them to be, when I think about what I want for my kids, I'm not necessarily thinking like, oh, it's like success at all costs. Like I kind of want them. I mean, the most essential thing for them is that they're comfortable in their own skin, right? That they're mentally and emotionally healthy, and they're physically healthy, right? That's good. But if they're mentally and emotionally healthy, everything good in life stems from that, right? Then you have the confidence, you have resilience, you have all of these attributes that lead you to be able to make good decisions. And if you can accept yourself, and if you're emotionally and mentally healthy, then you can, all the rest of the life choices will flow from there. That's really my hope for my kids, and I think that's what this work stems from, is like wanting to raise kind, confident, emotionally, mentally healthy kids.
Well, yeah, definitely could say that again. And my goodness, like the thing is with that goal and with all of your mindfulness training, and to be honest, this is actually a great training ground phase that we're in with all the changes going on in the outside world, because it can be taxing, but at the same time, it's like, hey, you can really give your mind metaphorical six pack abs here.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps, it depends. The pandemic gives some people more time and some people less time and attention and energy, right? So I think it really depends on the individual, but at least for parents, it's really probably, what's happened for a lot of us is that we've lost all these outside activities. A lot of us have been just like going and going and doing, and we kind of have so much there's so much of a push in our culture to do things and acquire stuff, like more stuff and experiences, that we end up kind of like overstressed with sort of so much in our lives that we can't really pay attention to each other. And what the pandemic did is stripped all that stuff away, and then we were left with essentially what's kind of most important, right? Our relationship with ourselves and our relationship with the people we love and in our household. And so it also showed us if there's some challenges there that we need to kind of step forward to address. So Yeah, I think that sometimes I think like that you know, living living in a house, like I used to think of it as like a snow day. If you had like if you were snowed in with a three or a toddler or something, like a young child for a number of days, that's kind of like a better proving ground for like enlightenment than years on top of mountain. Because they just show you your stuff, right? Like they show you all the issues you need to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely does make sense on that end. It's like, oh no, we're trapped inside. Okay, we're done building snowmen. My hands freaking hurt. Like, no. Ah, crap. They can't get lost in the snow. Darn it, we're still here. No, I'm trapped now. It's like, no. So, my goodness. So, with dealing with, I guess a lot of parents are like, oh man, I'm kind of feeling, it's like I love my kids and I really enjoy being with them, but at the same time, it's like, man, I'm trapped with them too. So, it's like, so what? Any mindfulness techniques you want to recommend for parents out there from the books? Pretty sure you got tons of them, but any one or two you want to share with folks?
Sure. And so, well, the thing that the why mindfulness is sort of at the basis of what I do is that it gives us this really, it does so many things, which is awesome. It's been research shown to by like 47 different studies have shown that it lowers anxiety, lowers depression, increases sense of well-being. It actually helps health outcomes, helps you sleep better. There's all these amazing benefits to training your mind. But for parents, what's really, really important is that it helps us with impulse control, right? Or it lowers our reactivity. So this is really essential because this is the how we get that pause, that ability to make a choice, right? That moment between stimulus and response where we're able to make a choice. And mindfulness really, really helps us with that, as well as clarity of thinking and empathy and compassion, which all of those are things we need too. So I kind of think of it as like we kind of look at it and say, well, I mean, at least for me, I'm at my worst when I'm reactive, right? We're at our worst when we're losing our beat, right? And what's happening there is really clear biologically. Like what's happening there is that your stress response is happening. Your body, your nervous system is seeing what's happening in this moment feels like a threat. And so you've got that fight, flight, or freeze stress response that's triggered in the nervous system by the amygdala, right? And what's happening is it's bringing blood flow to your muscles in your hands, your jaw gets tight, your shoulders get tense. But what's really, really important to understand is also that it's also happening is that it's cutting off access to your whole brain. So we have our prefrontal cortex, right? The area right behind our forehead is this like executive functioning part of the brain. It's responsible for verbal ability, problem solving, empathy, critical thinking, like all of these things that we would want to be able to parent well from, right? To be able to look at our child and say, what's going on here? Like, let me think about, let me respond skillfully and address what's going on here in a kind, compassionate, skillful way. But when we're losing it, that whole part of the brain is like, it's cut off. Like the stress response literally bypasses that part of the brain so we can react instantly. And that's so we could, and that's just how we're wired. So we could evolve to a threat. But so mindfulness practice really helps us to bring our whole brain on board, to lower that stress response so that we can regulate, because we're better at modeling, right? Like it really makes no sense for us to yell, shut up, be quiet, right? Like if you yell at your kids not to yell, that doesn't make any sense at all, right? Like we're modeling yelling and we're saying to our kids, you take care of your emotions because I can't, right? I'm not in control. So you have to control yourself so I feel better, right? Which is crazy to think about, right? Like, because kids don't even, their brains aren't even fully developed till they're in their 20s. So that's where this mindfulness comes in, and it can come in a lot of different ways and tools, like you mentioned. And I really think of it, though, the most primary way that it works is like you build the muscle of less of calm, right? You build the calm muscle. You build a muscle of non-reactivity, right? Because so you practice a little bit every day. You sit in quiet, you bring your attention back to the present moment with kindness and curiosity. You practice, you sit in quiet for, you start out maybe with 3 minutes, then you move up to 5 minutes and 10 minutes, and and this training of the brain, it feels really counterintuitive. It feels weird for us to do this because we're just primed to go, go, go. But I think of it as this like crazy brain hack that helps us get all of that less anxiety, less depression, greater impulse control. And it helps us to be the adult in those moments. We need to be the adult when they're kids, right? When we need to model how to calm down, when we need to model something, when we need to say something more skillful, right? So it helps us to kind of build that muscle and be less reactive overall. But in some of those moments, like those stressful moments, like they're going to happen. They happen to everybody. They happen to me. They happen to you. They happen to all of us. As a way mindfulness can help us in those moments is that what mindfulness is doing is basically we're bringing our attention in it back to the present moment. We're observing what's happening with us in our body and mind. We're observing what's happening with our kids. We're trying to be present with what really is, rather than with like the story and the thoughts, right? Our thoughts are they're telling us some stories, right? And we want to be present with what's really happening. So when we're starting to get into tough moment, what we can do, a mindfulness tool to help in that moment, is to just simply start to say out loud what you see, right? Say what you see with yourself, say what you see with your child. Whoa, you're getting louder. I'm starting to feel my jaw tight. I'm starting to feel irritated. And as I say this kind of thing out loud, as we can start to just say what we see, it's really a wonderful thing to do, because it does a couple of things. As soon as you notice, right? As soon as you notice what's happening and you're observing what's happening rather than kind of being on that train going forward, it interrupts the pattern. It's like a really powerful pattern interrupter. So you're interrupting the pattern of losing it in yourself. You're saying, okay, I'm starting to feel irritated. That's like, oh, ding, 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 ding. Maybe I can take some steps to calm down. I need to take a break or take big deep breaths, which are seriously cliche because they work. But anyway, so it helps us interrupt that pattern. But it also, saying what we see in ourselves, like and with our child, it models healthy emotional intelligence. So we're modeling for our child that mom or dad has these feelings. It's okay for us to have these feelings, and we're also modeling how to take care of these feelings in a healthy way, right? So it's really, really a great thing to do. So I recommend a practice, build that muscle, that non-reactivity overall, and to start to be more, bring that observation of what's happening for you and your feelings into those moments, so that then you can interrupt the pattern and then take care of those feelings more skillfully.
Yes, indeed. That's right, indeed. More skillfully, indeed. That's what I'm talking about, indeed. That's right, indeed. And I love what you said there about the whole impulse control, because that's really what mindfulness helps you with. And it's so darn true about the whole modeling behavior sort of thing, because it's like you're screaming at the kids, like, hey, why the freak are you making X's all over the wall? Why'd you draw over the wall? And it's like, hey, actually just sitting down and talking with them and actually explaining what's actually happening will definitely model behavior better that you want to see out of them. Because the thing is, you're so right. Like a lot of times, like what was the classic phrase for parents back in the day? Probably still today, where it's like, do what I say, not what I do.
Yeah, yeah. And we all know how well that works. I mean, the thing is, like, we know how well modeling works, right? We know how well modeling like more skillful language works because how a lot of us don't want to if you curse, right? A lot of people say, oh, we don't want to curse around kids. And why don't we want to curse around kids? Well, we know that if we start dropping f-bombs all over the place, what are our kids going to sound like in like a week or two? Like literally hardly any time, because they're modeling our behavior. We're showing them how to be. We're an adult, right? So we have to live what we want our kids to learn. So if we want our kids to yell and freak out at us, we'll yell and freak out at your kids. If we want our kids to hit their siblings, hit your kid, right? Like that's not exactly going to work. We have to model the kind of language we want to see back to us. So if we want respect, we need to give respect. We need to model that.
That's right, folks. Got to put them high heels on your chin, y'all. That's right. Model that language that you want to hear. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. 'Cause that is the sucky part about it. It's like, oh no, if you accidentally curse and the kid hears, it's like, oh crap, they said it in like 30 seconds. I tried to get him to say mama, dad after freaking 3 weeks. Like, come on.
Oh my God, so true.
Like, man. Like, man. Well, yes, indeed. So, since you've been on the both sides of the mic for a good while, is there a question that you wish you'd be asked more often when you're on the guest side of the game?
Oh, that's an interesting question I haven't thought of. No, I've been asked a lot of different questions, and I think they're really interesting. One of the things I think is really interesting, I guess, because I'm really interested in generational patterns and all of those things, and I'm really interested in people's stories, right? Like what was your upbringing like, and what was your family like, and is this something that's it is the way that you're raising your kids the same as you were raised or different, and why? Like I think those personal stories are always like really, really interesting. So when I have a guest on my podcast, I often want to ask them about that, like what was your upbringing like? I had one person really push back about that, which was I was very surprised about. So I've had Dr. Dan Siegel on my podcast a couple times. He's an amazing researcher, best-selling author of The Whole Brain Child and like 12 other books. Really, really person I respect enormously. And he also co-wrote the book Parenting from the Inside Out, which is really wonderful. And it talks about understanding our own childhood so that we can understand, places we're triggered, where we're bringing our own baggage into a situation. And so I asked him about his upbringing, and he did not like that question. And I was like, oh no, I've made Dan Siegel uncomfortable. I was so mortified.
uh, yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Because that was the best of us. And actually, that's the beautiful thing about having conversation with folks, especially on podcasts, where it's like, hey, this is something easy for them. Oh, crap, it's not. Oh, wow. All right, I didn't know there was a bear trap in that one. All right, so tell us about the corn cobs. It's like,
Totally.
well, since you mentioned personal stories, I know you read mindfulness books as a teenager. So, my goodness, what led you to the mindfulness books anyway? Because I'm pretty sure, like mindfulness, that really didn't catch a lot of steam and fire until maybe like 5 or 7 years ago, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, I was personally sort of like I wanted some help. I think I've always been a really highly sensitive kid. I've been like, sometimes, I'll be really enthusiastic and then I would just drop down really low, and I just felt things very deeply and I had big emotions. And I really remember, I remember being like 11 and having been cried and cried and cried over something, and my dad rubbing my back and saying to me, "Oh, Hunter, this is just your artistic temperament, and like life will always be this way." And I was like, "Oh wow, that's depressing." Thanks, Dad. But he was right. It's just this like highly sensitive nature. And so we had a little bookstore in my town, and I would go and look at the books, and would see these books about mindfulness, and they were attractive. And so yeah, that's how I discovered someone who became one of my main sort of teacher, I would say, which is the Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh. um, he's still alive, an amazing, amazing author and teacher, just makes mindfulness so accessible. And he's like a real, just an incredible source of wisdom. He was actually, Martin Luther King Jr. actually nominated him for a Nobel Peace Prize in the 70s for his work. But yeah, and so reading the books helped, but it wasn't actually until I started a meditation practice, that I it really helped. That highly sensitive nature, I used to fall into these pits every like kind of like week or so, like every week or two. I just feel so overwhelmed by life. And after I started a meditation practice, literally like 2 or 3 months into it, I I kind of thought like, oh, this isn't doing anything. I just sit here thinking for 10 minutes. I can't do this, all those thoughts we have. But then I looked back over the rest of my life, and I realized, oh my God, like I haven't fallen into any of those pits that I had fallen into for, at that point, 27 years of my life. And so it really, really was a big game changer for me.
Oh yeah, that's right. Big game changer indeed. That's what I'm talking about. Because it is true too, especially for a lot of the empaths out there, and a lot of folks are discovering more with their empath sensitive souls, and it's like, oh yay, mindfulness. All right, cool. Now I can really take on the world. I feel like I can lift up this heavy weight that feels light as a feather, maybe as light as two feathers. Who knows? Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, a fun question I've been loving to pop on guest recently is that if your wonderful book, Raising Good Humans, was a food item, what would it be and why?
Hmm. That's a really interesting question. It would probably be pretty healthy. It's not like a donut or something. It would be like a little snack tray with a cup with like some veggies and dip, and like a bunch of different little items. That's what it would be.
So a healthy Lunchables. All right, cool. That's what I'm talking about indeed. That's right indeed. All the veggies to make the vegans happy. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. So my goodness, we're coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive, and that is, if you're to wake up tomorrow and you're 25 again, but you're in the current year of 2022 with all of your knowledge and experience, what advice would you give to yourself?
Hmm. I think I would talk to myself before, I guess at this point, I would talk to myself before I got pregnant with my first daughter, which at that point I would in a couple more years. And I would tell myself to not worry so much about items to purchase for the baby, and start to maybe do some therapy, or or start to think about communication and all of those parenting skills, like start to learn the parenting skills that now I know, because those first years were hard, man. And I think I would prepare more for the after the baby comes than for the pregnancy and the stuff.
Sounds right indeed. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. And that's very interesting too. And granted, it's probably because I'm not a parent, maybe that why I haven't heard it that much. But it makes so much sense. It's like preparing the parent for the lifelong duty ahead of them, as opposed to, hey, just getting some baby clothes that they're gonna grow out of in like 6 months. Uh,
Yeah, but we have such a culture that's so focused on stuff and consumer culture, like we want to fix it through our stuff, and we don't like to do a lot of introspection. We want to move forward, but yeah, it's not about the stuff.
Amen to that. It's not about the stuff. Yes, indeed. You're so right too. Like too much stuff leads to freaking clutter, and then you're like, oh god, I got this infinite to-do list known as clutter, and it's like, oh, I'll get it clean. Crap, let me get a home organizer. A few months later, oh crap, it's back. Darn it, stuff. Oh man. But in terms of stuff, there's plenty of stuff for those folks to pick up because this book is in audio book form as well and ebook form if they want to travel light. So for those who want to not only buy the ebook and maybe the audio book, but also want to keep up with all the wonderful stuff you're doing in case you got more wonderful offerings out in the future, what's the best way for folks to do so?
Well, my website is mindfulmamamentor.com. Yeah, and you can find Raising Good Humans anywhere you find books. And then there's the Mindful Mama podcast. Listen to anywhere podcasts are, you're listening to this. So, and you can find me I'm more active on Instagram at Mindful Mama Mentor. So come say hi to me there and tell me you heard me on this wonderful Going North podcast.
Woohoo! You heard that right, folks. That's right. Follow her on the IGs. Be like, hey, I bought your book in multiple ways. I even bought the Bulgarian copy just for laughs and giggles so I can learn something and see if I feel more Bulgarian like, or maybe be like, I need to buy the Portuguese version and then give it to a Bulgarian friend who made it to America. That's right. Tell her all about it. That's right, indeed, because we got the hunter in the building. We ain't talking about Hunter Hearst Hemsley, but we're talking about the Mindful Mama Mentor, indeed, the Triple M, y'all. That's right. So buy the books, follow the podcast, especially if you're a lovely parent out there trying to be more mindful in these crazy times where folks are trying to lose their minds. Well, don't lose yours because she'll help you to keep yours, indeed. So any parting words before we close up shop, Hunter?
I would just say, life is hard for all of us. Like being human is hard. It's challenging. And I think that I would just say that, we need to have a lot more compassion for ourselves and offer ourselves kindness within and start to really treat ourselves and talk to ourselves as if we were, a best friend. And what happens with that is that then we can start to grow and learn from there. So I would just leave you with the invitation to practice more compassion for yourself, and then give yourself some grace, and then grow and learn from there.
How's it going, my friend? I'm so glad you made it to the end. That shows that you are an uncommon finisher, and I am so grateful for you sharing your ears, your attention, and your time to this wonderful podcast to do something that'll take yourself to the next level. And for everybody else involved in this wonderful program, share it with at least 3 people in your network so that way more folks can not only catch the fire that is on this podcast, but can also be inspired to be their best. Advance others to advance yourself.